must be our goal and our guide. And all that we strive for as a human family, dignity and hope, progress and prosperity, depends on peace. But peace depends on us.
Afternoon, and we do have a lot in store for you. We shall start with Kenyan stories, and we look at the latest on BBI. We know that court ruling on Friday, and so we shall see some of the things that the court said, and what a person like Deputy President, tweeted just moments after. And maybe perhaps where is his allegiance? And after that, we shall go to African stories and go to Zimbabwe also, where another court ruling was made there in regards to another appointment, extension of term of the Chief Justice in that country that the court in Zimbabwe turned. And also we'll go to Somalia and what is happening there, and then Nigeria, and then we will conclude with Ethiopia. So we do have a lot in store for you this afternoon. Before I bring in my panelists, I'll go through quickly the headlines this afternoon. My name is Miriam Ogutu. And on the Sunday Nation, the main headline says Uhuru, Raila plot BBI comeback, smarting from High Court ruling that put a damper on reforms process. Handshake partners head to the Court of Appeal tomorrow with a 14-point application. And we shall look at what are some of these things that will form part of the defense of the BBI proponents there. We shall look at that. And on the Sunday Standard, the main headline, how BBI ruling has shaken the big three. And while President Kenyatta and ODM leader have to deal with the political setback of the BBI ruling, the deputy president, who refused to take charge of no campaigns, has to face the fact that some of his most trusted political allies voted for the BBI in parliament. And after that, they have quoted the tweet that Deputy President William Ruto, tweeted moments after that ruling by the High Court. There is a God in heaven who loves Kenya immeasurably. May God's name be praised forever. Our democracy is anchored in the rule of law, constitutionalism. And then ODM leader Raila Odinga is quoted as saying, we will calmly and respectfully move to the Court of Appeal to present our case on why we think the High Court did not render the right verdict. So that is what we have on the front pages of the Sunday Standard today. So I'm joined by this afternoon Dr. Joseph Nyanchama from Nairobi. Dr. A very good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, Miriam, and all the listeners and the viewers from wherever you are. It is our pleasure to share thoughts with you this afternoon.
All right.
Thank you, Miriam.
Karibu sana. And we're also joined by Jevan Karanja from Nanyuki. Jevan, a very good afternoon to you.
A very good afternoon to you, Miriam. Good afternoon to our viewers. And good afternoon to Dr. Joseph Nyanchama. It's always a pleasure being on Punchline Africa TV.
All right, nice to have you too. So let's just start from where I read. I know we had a bit of this conversation on was it on Friday, but perhaps not. We did not exhaust it because I think it's a conversation that it's a developing story, as now the BBI team is set to appeal to go to court this coming week. And so let's just start with that tweet by Deputy President William Ruto. He refused to take a stand on the BBI. He refused to lead the no campaign. But from the tweet that he tweeted after the court verdict, Dr. Nyanchama, what do you make of that?
Thank you, Miriam, and my fellow panelist, Javan Karanja. Miriam, sometimes, and I always stated that it's good to be honest and do things rightly. He has been denying that he's not opposing, but it came out very clearly by his words. And surprisingly, he invoked the word of God, that there is a God in heaven. Let me just quote those words. How can you say there is a word in heaven? What do you mean exactly, especially you as the deputy president of the republic, when the court has demeaned your boss? I mean, what exactly are you saying? When they almost call him names and you are saying, I thank God for this. Which specific issues were you thanking God for? For me, I think, Miriam, that is how we don't need to put it in one basket. Let us see. Mm-hmm. There were several issues. Among those issues where the courts pronounced were that Uhuru Kenyatta contravened chapter 6 and he has not passed the integrity test. And here is your number 2 is helping you. And they're saying, oh, hallelujah, I thank God for that. The panelists needed to go deep. Which issues were he thanking God for? Mm-hmm. Let me tell you, Miriam, it has never been hard for that the person who's supposed to assist you when things go certain ways, which are not good for the country, where you are a deputy head of state, you begin to celebrate. It is unimaginable, Miriam. Mm-hmm. I don't know what he meant. He needs to say, because there are several issues there, which indeed bordered, first of all, on disrespect to the head of state. And I want to say here without fear that why, Miriam, we address, for example, the president as Your Excellency. Mm-hmm. We are not addressing Uhuru Kenyatta. It is by recognizing that he is a symbol of unity. And that is why we need to recognize it as such. Because if we demean that seat, then we shake the fabric of our republic. And here are judges who demeaned the president. And here is his deputy who say, hallelujah. You get a point. Mm-hmm. I mean, it is unacceptable. Let me tell you, Miriam, something before I let others to contribute. Mm-hmm. If you slap me, either any of the one panelist slaps me, it is an offense before a court of law and it is called an assault. Do you know, Miriam, if you slap a head of state, it is never called an assault. It is called a national instinct. Why? Because a head of state is a personification of a nation. And he must be treated as such and given his due respect, not as Uhuru Kenyatta, but as the president. I was shocked by the way the judges were advancing the issues. It was merely academic. In fact, now I'm trying to believe. Let the Judicial Service Commission give jobs to people, begin from magistrates who have experience. Otherwise, some of these judges who come with academics to the courtrooms are going to put this nation in a very difficult situation. I think for now, Miriam, I submit.
Okay, thank you. Javan Karanja, the Deputy President, refused to lead the No campaign, but soon after the court made that judgment, the tweet that followed there's a God in heaven who loves Kenya so much because of that ruling. And Dr. there has tried to take us through perhaps the deeper meaning of that tweet. Which part of that ruling was he thanking God for? What do you think he was thanking God for?
Thank you very much, Miriam. And since the start of this process of BBI under the handshake, the Deputy President has been opposed to the whole process from day one. Therefore, to me, he has been hiding in the name of trying to portray himself as a democratic leader, as a person who believes in the constitution process. But at the end of the day, we know Deputy President didn't support this process because to him, he thought the handshake and the BBI process was a way of creeping or flipping his wings so that he might not succeed President Uhuru Kenyatta when it comes to the 2022 presidential arithmetic. But that was not the case. BBI was all about unifying this country and ensuring that we create mechanisms that will guarantee ourselves prosperity, good elections, to amplify the fight against corruption, and so on. Therefore, the Deputy President has not been part of this process, and he has not been part of change. When you look at his political career since 1992 to date, he is a man who has been opposing change. In 2005, he was opposing the constitutional reforms. In 2010, he was still opposing. Therefore, this is a man who has been in the side of opposition to reforms and the revolutions in this country. Therefore, there is nothing much we expected. But it's hypocrisy when he has been pushing for a multiple choice referendum. Then he comes out to say that he celebrates when the courts make a judgment. Therefore, to me, I don't see the logic why you are celebrating a process that you portray yourself as not part of. Therefore, if he is not part of this process, he is opposing this process. Why is he coming out now to portray a picture that the courts are standing for? The courts have done a very good ruling, and that is the stand of the common Kenyans that he terms as hustlers. Therefore, to me, to that extent, I see Deputy President as a man who pretends to be a democratic leader, a person who upholds the constitution. But at the end of the day, he is not part of this change. But the question that we need to ask ourselves as Kenyans, the Deputy President, as President Uhuru Kenyatta said in Bomas of Kenya when we were launching the BBI document, the President said that the Deputy President has been part of this team. In fact, he submitted 3 names to the BBI steering committee and the BBI task force. When you look at all this, you see that the Deputy President, he pretends when he comes to the public eye, he comes to portray himself as a man who is being intimidated as a victim of government machineries. But at the end of the day, he was part of the process. Therefore, when I don't know what changed that he came out now to portray, to try to change tune so that he can resonate with the majority or the minority that he calls the hustlers. Therefore, to me, I see the Deputy President, and to him, dragging the name of God, monopolizing God as if God is a property that belongs to UDA. They portray God as a property that belongs to Deputy President or those people he calls hustler. To me, that is not a good thing, because what he is doing, and the Deputy President is a master of this, insinuating that that God is there for them, and everything that happens in this country, it is God. Therefore, and he knows very well, in this country, Kenyans, 80% we are Christians. Therefore, there are guys who tend to believe in this kind of methods that he is using to portray God as he portrays himself to be a very stern Christian. But when you look at his deeds, when you look at how he does his things, he does contrary to what the Christians dictates. Mm-hmm. Therefore, that was sad, but we hope that the due process will be followed. And I have seen the team, the Attorney General and others, they are preparing for a petition. I don't know if the Court of Appeals says that a BBI goes on, will they claim that God has abandoned them? Let's wait and see. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. And of course, from the papers today, the BBI team is armed with about 14 defense points there. We shall look at a few of those and see. Daniel Lasonga, very good afternoon to you, and thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. And so one of the key rulings there, one of the key things that the judges said there during that ruling was that, the multiple choice referendum was something that, perhaps Kenyans should be given so that they're able to choose through the issues and the articles there and decide which ones they agree with and which ones they don't agree with. And perhaps for Kenyans who may be a bit confused with what we had in 2010, that we had a yes and a no side. We were not given an opportunity to vote through the multiple choice, referendum. So what perhaps is the difference between this, and why would the judges suggest for the country to have a multiple referendum against what we had in 2010, where we only had two choices to choose from, yes or no?
Miriam, thank you very much. And of course, good afternoon from the headquarters, and good afternoon to my fellow panelists, Dr. Joseph Nyanchama and my good brother, Javan Karanja, and our viewers here in Kenya and the rest of the world. First and foremost, Miriam, I'll delve through the judicial activism that we are having as a country right now. And I'll say that without fear of favor, that right now the country is besieged. And this is because the foreign NGOs have actually infiltrated our judicial system. And listening to that judgment, it really does not make sense, Miriam. I saw the tone, the drift, and the language of the judges. You could actually see the kind of political and judicial activism that they're actually propagating. When they try to say that the BBI process is not a people-driven process, then you are left to wonder why was it that more than 4 million Kenyans appended their signatures to the document? If they say that the initiative should come from a citizen of the country, then go ahead and say that the president can also be prosecuted as a private citizen. Then that really leaves you in a dilemma whether, the president, yes, they say that these are an initiative which might have come from the former prime minister or the president. And if it came from them, then where is the distinction between the President Uhuru Kenyatta, the citizen, and the President Uhuru Kenyatta, the head of government? So to me, Miriam, I think there are so many leakages in this kind of ruling. And if the opposition and the Jubilee Party could go to the court and be able to prove their case, then I believe this judgment could be overturned. And on the matter of giving Kenyans a chance to have a multiple choice question on the referendum, I think this is something that I was vehemently adjudicated for by the deputy president. And that simply tells you where the heart and the minds of these judges are. These are people who are working in cohorts with the deputy president. He has his men there, and this was much anticipated, Miriam. When you read the likes of David D, when you read the minds of the likes of Kipchumba Murkomen, when you look at people like Hassan Omar Hassan, Martha Karua, these are people who had a very strong belief. They fervently believe that this process will be halted by the courts. And why did they have such a preemption before the matter was determined by the court? It is because the courts, these judges have been going to bed with the NGOs, they have been going to bed with the deputy president. And therefore, there is corruption in judges, in the judiciary. The judges have been corrupted by the NGO money. These judges have been corrupted by the man, William Ruto, and his corruption money. And that is why they were able to give such a skewed judgment, notwithstanding the views of majority of Kenyans who actually appended their signatures to the documents. And actually they went to the public participation forums, which were set up by the BBI committee of experts. And I remember, Miriam, the committee, the BBI steering committee held more than 92 public participation forums. So what comes of these people who went there to give their views? Why would the judiciary want to overturn the views of majority of Kenyans who left their duties to go and sit before this BBI task force and be able to give their ideas and their interests, what they want it to be included into a referendum? So I think supporting the point that we should have a multiple choice question on the BBI when the people of Kenya actually what they wanted was a yes or no referendum. I think it will be akin to hijacking and actually crumbling the agenda and an initiative of the people of Kenya. And to me, Miriam, I think the multiple choice referendum will not be viable. Why? Because a majority of our people who live in the rural areas, and these are where we have a majority of voters, are not yet complacent with having a multiple choice referendum, because we've never had such a referendum in Kenya. And even in the normal general election, you see the kind of discrepancies, the number of votes that are always marked as spoiled votes. So that tells you it will be a real confusion And the person who stands to benefit from such a flawed process are the same people who are not supporting the BBI process at the moment, and that is the Deputy President William Ruto, his NGO friends, and a few judges who have been corrupted by the same money, who do not want this country to be emancipated from one, electoral malpractices that we've witnessed over the years, the ethnic violence that have actually bedeviled this country since 1992, and three, corruption, which is the main disease that actually is stagnating our economies. And I'm actually sometimes surprised when William Ruto and his allies talk about reviving the economy, when corruption has been the biggest impediment to Kenya's economic thriving since independence. So I think, Miriam, that is just one of the suggestions that the saboteurs of the BBI process want to bring into the entire initiative, so that we have a storm that will ensure that the process does not see the light of day. And it's so unfortunate that this time round, it does not come from the antagonist of the BBI. Rather, it comes from the very institution which is mandated to ensure that Kenyans have their cake and eat it. Because this is a judiciary, it should ensure that the will of the people of Kenya is upheld to the latter. I submit, Miriam.
Okay. Thank you so much. So I do have a few of the grounds on which BBI team is seeking to appeal this court ruling, and we shall just look a bit of it. And one of them, Dr. Nyanchama, is that the court refused to respect the acknowledgement of each of the 4 million people who signed the IEBC format, saying they understood and supported the whole process of changing the law. In other words, public participation, and the court refused to acknowledge that Kenyans were actually involved in this process. Will this argument hold ground?
Absolutely, Miriam. You know why? Let me tell you, Miriam, something. You know, I get shocked sometimes. When the case goes to court and it is presented 4 million, that there are 4 million signatures who actually endorsed this process. You cannot nullify on the basis that IEBC did not follow the procedure. The onus is on you or the petitioner to prove how many of the 4 million signatures are not rightful. Otherwise, how are the cases adjudicated? You see, you cannot say that IEBC had no quorum when you in executing its duties or verifying, and on that basis, you nullify the will of 4 million people. You know, it's like saying you want to kill a child who was born out of wedlock. Have you ever heard something like that? Look at it this way. They were to prove that in fact the 4 million signatures were fake. Having proved that is when you can dismiss that these are not genuine people to begin this process. By the way, did you even hear Professor Ngugi, the Lordship? Let me myself address him as his Lordship, Professor Ngugi, because you don't become less if you honor a person in the position he holds. I don't want to bend lower as they did to disrespect the president. Let him address him as your Lordship, Professor Ngugi. You know, when he was making that ruling, what he said, I can even quote it to you, Miriam, you cannot separate business from policy, and then he said, period. Did you hear that statement? Then he said what? Period. What does it mean? As if somebody had angered by something. In fact, it had told me that they did not approach this decision with clean hands. Why? Out of the 5 judges, Miriam, 2 of them are among those ones which they accuse the president of not approving, the 41 judges. Out of those 5, 2 of them are in there. And that is conflict of interest, an indirect conflict of interest, which they were to declare, because I can directly even attribute that anger is a result of some of them by the president refusing to approve the 41 judges. I am telling you, Miriam, that judgment is bad, and they stand a chance of that aspect of it being put aside. There is a Professor Rock, I don't know his other name. He said there are three kinds of laws. We have the good law, we have the bad law, and then we have the mediocre law. And the professor said, how to prove a good judge is the one who applies a good law. These judges, 5 of them, who made this judgment, I can't classify them under good law, nor under bad law, but under mediocre. Do you know why not bad law? Even under bad law, you know bad has a value because you can be used as a bad example. But no one can use you when you are mediocre as a mediocre example. No one. So in short, they have a case there because the onus was for the court to prove, or the petitioner, that the 5 million signatories, some of those signatories were fake, but they never proved that. Why could they set aside just the mere existence of a quorum? Miriam, you know what? One thing they need to know, at the time they were all 9 commissioners, the policy was made. You know, once the policy is made, all of the staff follow the commissioner's policy. So they had set out ways of verifying. Did you hear them say, quoting the meaning of verification from a dictionary? How can you paste a dictionary to make a judgment? Look at the word of hustler from a dictionary. Then it is an acceptable word in the Republic of Kenya, Miriam. In short, to summarize, I think the PPI promoters have a case there. If you have prudent judges and they listen intently, they can set that one aside. I submit, Miriam.
Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Joseph Nyanchama. Okay, another ground that the BBI proponents are seeking to appeal this case. They're saying the court ignored a judgment previously given by the same court that had declared President's actions in setting up a task force to amend the constitution valid, because somebody had gone and challenged that. But the same court had said this process is valid, but that ruling on Friday thought different. Jervin Karanja, why do you think the court in this regard contradicted itself?
Thank you, Miriam. And we have seen clearly the contradiction that we saw on the ruling day is a clear indication that the judge were not doing this from the law or the legal understanding, but they are doing this from a political inclination point of view, because some of these things that we're bringing on issue, these are the rhetoric, these words that they are using. The same language they are using is a language that we have been seeing from the camp that opposes this document. And to me, I see like these are people who have some political interest, and that is why maybe they feel like because their political interests are not being championed, because some things that BBI is trying to promote, like the office of the judicial ombudsman, these are some of the things that I feel like to the judges, they feel this is something that would maybe interfere with how they do their work, but that is not the case. That is why I see like the judgment was not really in knowledge comparing to what comparing to the judgment or to the verdict that was given earlier. And the people who sponsored that argument, that area, that was a court team. I don't know how they called themselves. And the court said that the task force well constituted. It was constitutionally constituted. Therefore, when they come and try to say that now the way the task force, the steering committee was formed was not legally formed, or it was formed from, it was not well formed, then we see that like the courts have some interest, not really on the issue of the BBI or the legalities or the procedural adherence to the rule of law on the BBI process, but they have some other feelings. Because what I could read from these judges, some of them, especially those who made the verdict that BBI, who stopped the BBI, you could see a lot of bitterness. You could see them, they were really even changing the conversation from addressing the contentious issue to addressing Mr. President, and that is President Uhuru Kenyatta. They were more concentrating on what President done this, President has failed to do this and that, rather than concentrating on the basics of this issue. Therefore, to me, I see these judges, to some extent, they were biased, and that is why you see even contradicting themselves. Because from what I know, I'm not a legal mind, but I know to some extent, judges also look on previous judgment on how they were made. But on this case, even they failed to look on what themselves made on a previous judgment. To me, this shows that they are not in good interest, and they have nothing against BBI. Their problem is the person they are terming as Mr. Kenyatta. That is the person they have a problem with, not really the contentious issues that maybe those who petitioned the process were raising. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Now, Douglas, not Douglas, but Daniel Wesonga, one of other key grounds that the BBI team seeks to appeal this judgment. They are saying that the court outlawed actions of the IEBC and ignored the fact that all actions had been conducted after a go-ahead had been granted by a judge of the same court. Because we've been covering this BBI process, and a lot of times it has been challenged in court, and they paused, and then after the court gave its judgment, they continued, And so the BBI team is saying, every one of these issues you're raising, it has been challenged before, but the court gave a go-ahead. And the issue of what the judgment, part of the judgment that said that IEBC lacked the quorum, that really set this whole country and a lot of things that have been happening in terms of even the the by-elections that you expect to happen on Tuesday in Juja and I think Bonchari there could be legal now. Daniel Besonga, that is another problem that the court threw to us but did not offer a solution to.
Yes, thank you, Miriam. And of course, I'll just stick to my earlier presumption that these are the same judges who, over history, and again, have been found to be at war with the state. And you remember in 2017, Justice George Odunga gave a very outrageous judgment when the country was highly volatile. And this was in the selection of the returning officers. He stopped IEBC from bringing on board those names. It had this actually is what forced the current CJ nominee Martha Koome to come from leave and be able to overturn that ruling as the judge of appeal court. So it tells you that these are people who have been working so hard to force the country into the path of political turmoil and a state of anarchy, in that the rulings that they have been giving out there, they actually do not make sense and lack any iota of patriotism. When you look at someone like Odunga, these are judges like Dr. Joseph Nyanjama has claimed. He's among the 41 judges that were turned down by President Uhuru Kenyatta to be promoted in the appellate court due to corruption scandals and all other integrity issues that are under their names. We also have the issue of activism. These are people who are not listening to the interests of the people of Kenya, but rather they are listening to the voices of NGOs and other political players who are in the opposition, like William Ruto and his allies. So to me, Miriam, that tells you that the judiciary itself, it is not working in harmony. And you remember when Maraga left the judiciary, we still had a war between the executive and the judiciary. And this war was not propagated by the executive. but by the judiciary. Maraga himself made it so hard for him to work, for the judiciary to work with the executive. And therefore, all these trickle down to the judges who are very close allies, who are closely allied to him. And when you could listen to the judgment, Miriam, you could actually see Maraga's handwriting in those judgments, the things that he used to talk about in terms of even going ahead to advise the president to dissolve the parliament. Let me ask you, my fellow panelists and the viewers, if the president had to dissolve the parliament today, Kenya will most undoubtedly walk into anarchy, because we do not, as the court says, we do not have an IEBC which is rightfully constituted to even hold a by-election. That is according to their ruling. And therefore, if we dissolve parliament today, who will conduct an election? There's no one. The country, that means that President Uhuru Kenyatta will continue with his mandate until heavens come. And that is what puts the country in a very, very difficult situation. However, in their ruling, I would really want them to urge them to actually also anchor their judgments on patriotism. Patriotism means that they have to go out of the way and sometimes look at the law from a patriotic angle, in that right now, when they say that the IEBC is not rightfully constituted, we have by-elections that have happened before. Do they mean that these by-elections are also null and void as per their rulings? We have upcoming by-elections, Miriam, as you've mentioned. Do they mean that the IEBC will not go ahead and hold these by-elections? And what happens to the people of Kenya, the people who are affected by these by-elections? And therefore, Miriam, in doing so, they have to understand that the people are supreme. Without the people, there is no law. And therefore, the people cannot be subject to the same law that they make to govern themselves. So in that extent, they should actually harbor some patriotism and really ignore some other things, the small things that are actually bring confusion, and therefore allow this process to sail through, so that at the end of the day, through the BBI process, we are able to reconstitute the IEBC, we are able to do a complete overhaul of our electoral process, so that the country does not fall into another upheaval as we've seen through the previous years. And then also we are able to solve systemic problems that like corruption, like integrity in leadership, and all those that are envisaged in the BBI agenda, Miriam. I submit.
Okay, thank you, Daniel Wasonga. Now, yesterday, a Mani National Congress leader, Musalia Mudavadi, one of the key proponents of the BBI, alongside Kalonzo Musyoka of Wiper, and then for Kenya's Moses Wetangula, Gideon Moi of KANU, National Rainbow Coalition boss Charity Ngilu, called on the use of inter-parties parliamentary group IPPG model to implement some of the BBI proposals. Mr. Mudavadi said even if the court's decision is appealed, the constitutional review will be facing timeline hurdles. So this is what Mudavadi is quoted as saying: "We are acutely aware the constitutional timelines will be in the way, regardless of the result of the appeals. For instance, the proposed 70 constituencies would not be applicable in the next election if the entire process of the referendum is not concluded before August 2022. This means that regardless of the results from any appeals preferred, the bulk of the provisions of the bill will not for sure become operational in next year's poll." He suggested that in order not to lose the entire BBI bill, there is a need for leaders to embark on what he described as inclusive national dialogue. Do we have time for that, Dr. Joseph Nyanchama, considering the timelines that even Mudavadi is worried there? But he's saying perhaps we could engage on a national dialogue. Is there room for that right now?
I don't think that is necessary, because for me, as much as these people who oppose BBI think they have given the president a blow, I don't think so, because the president has an option. Remember, the president tested both the Senate and the National Assembly. You can see, Miriam, how many people or how many members of parliament were whipped to support his cause in National Assembly. They were around 243, somewhere there. And in Senate, they were around 51, which each of them were above the threshold required to change the constitution. You know, there are constitutional amendments that can now go through the parliamentary route. For me, in fact, whether now the president fails in the appeal, they need to explore the parliamentary route. You know, if you look at all the items which were going to the referendum, 8% of them can be passed through parliament. So meaning amending the constitution through the parliamentary route. And now, since he is able to whip over 2/3 of members of parliament, both the Senate and the National Assembly, he needs to pursue that route and get the 80% which is in the BBI bill if this route of referendum fails. Having got that, now the political front, this will be the narrative. We could have given you the other 20%, but because of the shenanigans, we couldn't. What these other people are opposing the BBI do not see that route. What if the president says he amends the constitution through parliamentary route, the president and the prime minister? After those amendments, maybe, part of those provisions to amend the constitution which cannot be amended through parliamentary route, which are supposed to go to the referendum, but now they can explain to people that, these guys stood on our way. What the opposers of BPI don't see, if the campaign go that way, it is also going to work against them. The electorate will say, you stood on the way of the president and the prime minister. As a consequence, we have lost the PCD. And they are going to have the sword cutting both ways. For me, the issue is not the PBG model. The president needs to pass through parliamentary route and at least secure 80% of what is in BBI. For me, that is the route I could propose them to also give life to. I submit, Miriam.
Okay, thank you so much. Now, of course, as the BBI proponents plot their next move, DP Ruto and his allies, on the other hand, have been holding virtual victory laps over the High Court judgment. Is it too early to start celebrating here, Jeven Karanja?
Thank you very much, Miriam. I don't know why these guys are celebrating, especially those who oppose the BBI. They have nothing to celebrate, because in either way, you are not supporting the process and the benefits that the BBI was promising to this country. They were not part and parcel. Therefore, if BBI could have brought good things, the history could have judged them differently than compared to those who supported the document. Therefore, it is too early to think that BBI will crumple, because we have not yet gone to the Court of Appeal. We don't know the outcome. The outcome might favor the promoters of BBI, and if that comes, then those who are celebrating now, they will understand that he who loves last loves the longest. And on the same very issue, and what the conversation that Musalia Mudavadi is bringing on table, he thinks that we go back and we have a national dialogue. What is a national dialogue? BBI has been a national dialogue for 3 years. Therefore, maybe what Musalia is telling us is we need to do away with the BBI that we have, and we start something new. And this something new, I don't know what will it look like. These are figurative thing that he's talking about, calling itself a national dialogue. BPI to me has been a national dialogue. Why? Because room was given to Kenyans to give their inputs, to give their recommendation, to give what they feel need to be done to better this country. To me, that was a national dialogue. A public participation was held across the country. And to that extent, I think Musalia Mudavadi, and this is a man who has been making his political journey a turmoil, because the way he speaks, he ends up making people feel agitated. And that is how he loses ground, because every time he comes, he contradicts himself. Because as a promoter of BBI, that should not even be a consideration. But to some extent, I agree with Dr. Nyachama and some of these party, the Seralic, the Kenya One Alliance, when they say that the parliament. But the problem, they are talking of parliamentary intergroups, committee, whatever thing. But I feel like what Dr. Nyachama has suggested should be the best way out. Because if 80% of what we have in the BBI can be achieved through a parliamentary constitutional amendment channel, then that should be a very good move, because we'll be remained with 20%. And we hope that the outcome of the Court of Appeal, or whether we go to the Supreme Court, will at one point favor the promoters of BBI. If we go by that, some of these issues, if they will be done through the National Parliament, then we be now going with time. We'll be working on the time factor. And because the time is short, we can go work on what can be done in the parliament to be being studied, implemented. If it's about the elimination of the 70 new constituency, if it's about other new things, and what can only be done in the referendum will be sorted out when that time comes. And I think that is more to do with the expanded executive and those other issues. Therefore, to me, I see like we are still on the right track. We are still on the right way. But those who are celebrating, they should not celebrate yet. The journey have started. This is the debacle have started. Therefore, they should wait. Let's meet at the Court of Appeal. Let's meet at Supreme Court and see what will come. Therefore, I don't see why the Tangatangas are celebrating yet, and they are not part of this process. They should relax and wait. But for Musalia Mudavadi, I have said earlier, this is a man who, in his political career, he has been making so many mistakes, and that is why he's still struggling to unite the Mulembe nation, while other leaders are struggling to unite this country. Therefore, that is the difference. He is more of a regional leader. He is still working on Mulembe unity, something that he has tried from 2002 when he was the vice president, and it has failed. Therefore, he should give room to other national leaders to work on this issue. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. And I don't know how that will play out. Will that now mean people have to go back and sign again? Because I thought after past the Kenyans appending the signatures, that process could not be open for any more changes. We are also joined this afternoon by Dr. David Matanga. Doctor, very good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, Miriam. Thank you very much, all of you, for taking up the mantle and being on the show. Good afternoon, Dr. Joseph Javani Karanja. I can see you are making very strong case there. Thank you very much. I've heard the Songa. Thank you very much, Comrade Saxon Vima from Zimbabwe. Thank you very much. Wherever you are in Africa, this is Africa Showdown, the show for Africa with Africa by Africa. Let's go. Can I start now? Or whose chance was it?
Just go ahead. Go ahead.
Let me come in. Pick it a point from Mudavadi. If there is one creature that I have never liked in Kenyan politics, is that creature called Mudavadi. Creatures are human. We are all called creatures. But in Africa, when you call somebody a creature, then he gets annoyed. We are all creatures of God. God created us. Mudavadi has never had a stand, as my friend here has said. Mudavadi is a bishop. He should be preaching in church. I don't know which church they go, of Church Musambwa in Vihiga.
In
Murulu, but not to be on a political team. You cannot gag anybody, a public, anyone in the world, to criticize judges. Even the judges in the Commonwealth are told off. There are things that you should know. I have written very critically about Chief Judge Odunga and the relationship between Odunga and Orengo. And someone called me, another professor, myopic, stupid professor, who licks boots. I don't lick boots of anybody. I told him, you call me and threaten me like that, I am gonna come on you with my verbal diarrhea. You will not like it. And I told him, who are you? You what? You have children, I have children. Your children are grown up, minor crona, Professor Gumbe, I warn you, leave me alone. I'm not your caliber. I'm not an engineer. I'm a political animal. I'm a politician. I did not study your stupid engineering, which you have not built even one building in Nairobi. You only follow Raila. I am not concerned. Tena kama mnaanza na mna hivyo, on this side bwana, enda muende pole pole. Tutachapana. Mimi on this side, don't try. I've ceased the fire. The man told me that the Kikuyus are very stupid people. He even went to the extent of saying President Uhuru Kenyatta is an idiot. Surely, is this where we have reached? I recorded him here specifically. And I'm going to forward this to other high authorities for them to hear if this is the type of people where, if he has gone to Ruto and is smelling money, let him eat his money. But there are ordinary rulers who want this BBI. There are ordinary people in Siaya who want the BBI. You can be a friend of Raila and disagree with Raila. But nobody has said, Matsanga, I am one of the few people who has said this time, let this thing fall in the hands. Let's give Raila a vote. Let Kenyans give Raila a vote. Raila has suffered. Raila has played a pivotal role. Give him a vote. Give him a life. Give him a chance. There's nothing wrong with that. Raila has done a big sacrifice to shake a hand of Uhuru Kenyatta. He had 7 million votes. Uhuru has about 7 point something. So a man to sacrifice all his pride to shake the hand. Please give him the vote. I will not change from there. I am not a traitor. I am not Mafiki Zolo. Gumbe, you are Mafiki Zolo. You are now working for Ruto, another thief, mafia, who stole all Kenyan money. He's lost. That deputy president, my foot. What deputy president, who prays then while we are praying, the money is going. This is like the Christian, the David Livingstone who came to say, pray, 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 pray. Land is being taken, pray, pray, pray. You know? So that is my anger. 2, my question, Miriam, is Uhuru Kenyatta a Kenyan? Is Raila Odinga a Kenyan? Did you people elect whom did you elect, a Tanzanian or you elected a Ugandan, like a Matsanga? I have not pretended to be Uhuru Kenyatta near the throne. For some judges to come up and say because the Uhuru Kenyatta spearheaded and told people to go ahead and get a people's initiative, where people going to use stones or water to publish those books, to publish 42 million books. Do you use water? You use resources. The government must provide for a people's initiative. The court erred. Odunga should have not sat on the bench. Ngugi should have not sat on the bench. We have now made an application. We have just come from out of that type of meeting. Let's see the English. If the other time the English was not good, all of us technical men are up now. Because this court is political, we need also to play politics. And for your information now, we are in the technical team. We are going to play politics. Because this team plays politics. Yes, we shall advise also on political lines that can persuade the public and win the appeal. You cannot just do these type of things and walk away. Impossible. Impossible. 2, finally, Medium, whatever is happening in Africa, as you see the second phase, the courts are being used to muzzle governments. Look across. If the Kenyan constitution does not change, to change it to give the president, at least, if you have borrowed from the American system, why don't you give the government, the president, the time to choose the people who should serve him while he is in power? Your constitution was heavily borrowed from the American system. Why don't we go back to that? Why have we mixed ourselves to a parliamentary system where a judge hides under the judiciary and says he cannot be prosecuted, but he calls the president Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, 13 times, as if he's his son or his brother. They graze the same cows in the same crowd. Courts in Africa are beginning to be very focused on regime change. I submit, therefore, that whatever is happening, we shall go up to the last judicial mechanisms in this country to make sure that we get justice. But after that, another good thing, Miriam, which I felt I should tell people. Did you realize that that ruling gives Uhuru? If I were President Uhuru Kenyatta, I would show them that I'm also stubborn. You now ask the parliament to extend elections. Mr. President, this is politics. Forget about these lumpens, these activists. Extend the parliament to allow that parliament extend your elections to be conducted in 2023. Yes, and I believe all MPs are not yet even ready to even campaign for one day. They would like the view. You also play politics, mzee. Cheza na hawa natuchezea. Na wewe wafanya siasa. There is no judiciary here. Mr. President, there is no law here. The law is a law of activism. You also play activism. Hammer them with 2023 elections. While you now set out the constituency, there is a pandemic. Use your powers, mzee. Later. Wacha tuonesha watu. We have been for all this time, Your Excellency, we have been playing a fiddle, fire defense. We have been firefighting. When can we send the fire? We have numbers now that can bring emotion. No MP will refuse. Extend the parliament. Yes. Extend. Then you give Mr. Whoever is the chairman of the IEBC time to do the constituencies, arrange a free, fair, non-violent elections. Sit back in the State House, watch the vote. People will laud you. You can't leave a country in the middle of a desert. We are sinking. Mr. President, this country, if you leave it without reforms, without bringing in unity, we shall go to the Hague. We shall be very many of us. People will now be like a free fall. Your Excellency, don't allow Kenya is too precious to go through this violent man. To have this man should not handle the powers of instruments of power. He will destroy this country. Extend the parliament. Let the judges say the parliament was wrong. If there is no provision that if there is something beyond which you cannot hold, let parliament vote. Most of the MPs want to stay there anyway and earn more money. You think they will refuse to vote? No, you think they will refuse to vote? They will want money to prepare for elections. So extend the parliament to show Ngugi and Odunga that they will not tamper again and do the type of rulings they have done. I submit.
Okay. Thank you so much. All right, and that marks the end of our Kenyan topics today. This is a conversation that we shall continue tomorrow because, as we've told you there earlier, the BBI team already has appealed, and we are just looking at the 14 grounds for the appeal. So that is where we shall leave that conversation this afternoon and head on to other matters, Africa. And we start with Zimbabwe. And I don't know if Sanctions Vina is still online. Very good afternoon to you, if you can hear me. Okay, very well. As we wait for him to join us.
I can hear you.
Okay.
Yes, I can hear you.
Good afternoon. I just wanted us to conclude with the Kenyan matters. That's why I did not, but I knew you were there.
Okay.
Yes, so now we can talk about this issue of Zimbabwe, where Zimbabwe's High Court has ordered the country's Chief Justice to step down after he reached 70 years of age, despite a recent constitutional amendment that appears to allow him to serve 5 more years. The court's ruling Saturday came after human rights lawyer Musa Kika made an urgent application asking Zimbabwean Chief Justice Luke Malaba to step down. Earlier this month, Parliament passed a constitutional amendment which allowed the president to handpick judges and the country's vice presidents and to extend the Chief Justice's age of retirement by 5 more years. I don't know, what is your reaction to that court ruling in Zimbabwe?
The court ruling shall be contested. Our Justice Minister is going to appeal tomorrow morning. That was a miscarriage of justice. Prior to the ruling, the Judicial Services Commission had decided that one of the judges was an interested party and was not supposed to hear the case. Is the one called Episode Joe. He has made rulings that have been against the government ever since he was appointed during the government national unit. One other thing, another flaw, the judge president is also a member of the should have been this Kika Musa is for an NGO, and this NGO's their intention is to create a constitutional crisis. The intention of starting to challenge the
Okay, we don't have the best reception there from you, Saxon. I don't know if you're able to fix that, and then I shall come back to you, please. We are not able to hear. Okay, so once Saxon is able to talk to us, then he will come back. So perhaps we can take care of that, and maybe Doc, you can start us off. Dr. Matanga, you can take over. We apologize for that. Very poor reception there from Saxons Viva, who's talking to us all the way from Zimbabwe. And I think that his opinion on that matter was really important. I really wanted to hear what he's saying. But from the little that he's been able to say, he's saying the human rights lawyer who made this urgent application is from the NGO, apparently. And he's saying that one of the judges who heard and ruled on this case also had vested interest. So perhaps, Doctor, you can start us off, and then we'll continue from there. We apologize for the problem there with Svina.
Miriam, I told you what is happening in the courts in Africa is similar to what is happening in Kenya. Now, in Zimbabwe, some of the judges who sneaked through, fortunately enough, in Zimbabwe, the president appoints judges, so he can replace them at any time, which is different with Kenya. Kenya also, there can be a procedure. The President Uhuru Kenyatta wanted to sweep the entire High Court. Actually, time has come for President Uhuru Kenyatta to sweep people who have dragged connected cases like a Justice Chacha and another justice lady who are in Mombasa, and the people are serving sentence. They have been highly mentioned. Someone has been sitting on these files in this country. These guys should actually move very fast and deliver themselves to the jail in the United States of America. So such judges, let the president give us evidence, throw these intelligence reports on these judges, and the public knows them who they are. We have had enough. We have had enough, Mr. President. Every time we leave these people, we think they are bad, they are good. They are not very good. They are being paid by Ruto to dismember you. And me, I don't want to keep quiet. At my age, Ruto is not my age. He will not convert my age to his. I started school when he was still carrying water somewhere in the river in Rift Valley. So you don't play with me here anytime. You can play with me because of your country. That's it. I can go. I'm telling you. I am fed up. I went and stood for these guys in the ICC. Nobody liked them. And I want to thank the president for being a human being and for having come to say thank you. Ruto never said thank you. Huyu mtu mbaya sana. He's a very bad guy. Very, very difficult. Lakini, msijali, we are still there. So Miriam, hii mambo ya kusema you are dealing, this is the worst thing that killed Julius Caesar. Julius Caesar thought Brutus was his friend. Every time Julius Caesar was being told to strike Brutus, strike Brutus, Julius Caesar said, no, you are against these people. They are very good debaters in the Senate. Cassius and Julius Caesar were planning to kill Cassius and Brutus. Were planning to kill Julius Caesar. We have seen people amongst their groups killing their bosses. Judas Iscariot killed Jesus, betrayed Jesus. There is no difference between Ruto betraying the president. In fact, the way things look, Ruto can harm the president. And let me be open here on this TV. Record this statement. This guy can harm the president because he wants power so much. And we are crying. Some people think it is a joke. I'm not a security agent of this country, but I am telling you, I saw these things during the government where I served. We used to tell Obote that these guys are going to overthrow us. Dr. Milton Obote told us he even wanted imprisoned some of us because we are telling the truth to him. Now you see where we are. He's gone to the grave. It is me suffering with Museveni. You see, where is he? We were overthrown in 1985. We lost power. We became paupers on the streets of the world. This Ruto is not a good man for President Uhuru Kenyatta. He's working out day and night. If you see the celebrations, it is similar to what is happening in Zimbabwe. They have now penetrated Zimbabwe media. The George Soros group has paid money. People are enjoying. Some of the judges want dollars. They will also cause havoc there. The strategy is now the judiciary. You have failed to overthrow MDC. MDC has failed. MDC is scattered. MDC is fragmented. So what did you do? Go to the institution that looks at the law, where most Zimbabweans will say, yes, we agree. This Chief Justice should have gone. long time ago. That's the way I'm seeing it, Miriam. And that is, I think, the best I can say on this topic with authority that I know about Zimbabwe and Justice Malava.
All right. Thank you so much. Daniel Songa, the Chief Justice was supposed to have a...
Yes, thank you, Miriam, and being the custodians of the law, the judiciary, and Dr. Matsanga has put there very, very cognitive comparative analysis between what is happening in Kenya and what is happening in Zimbabwe. And it comes out clearly that there are some characters in the judiciary, both in Kenya and Zimbabwe, who will want to use the law quite sparingly in their own favor. And that is what we are seeing here in Kenya. You see, on IEBC, the courts, the same court in the judiciary ruled this way. According to the IEBC, you come here, you find 5 bench judges ruling in a different and very opposite way, just to be able to cater for their own selfish interests. So I think, Miriam, when it comes to judiciary in Africa, we have to do away with infiltration, foreign interference, and the judicial activism that we are seeing out there, because the foreign funders and of regime change like George Soros have seen it is much easier to use the judiciary to disorient and bring anarchy into countries, because when laws are distorted, when the countries are made ungovernable by outrageous rulings and structures in judiciary, you realize that it simply puts the country on a projectile where we do have anarchy and we do have a very tumultuous time in terms of governance. So the problem in Zimbabwe, I think, as the courts gave the president the terms to the privileges to appoint and fire the judges, they should have allowed the president to continue in that particular manner. Because remember, this is a mandate which has been provided by the law, and therefore they should not in any other way interfere in it or make it appear that it can only apply to a section of the members of judiciary and it is forbidden to other members of judiciary. That will be akin to bringing up divisions, causing confusion and anarchy, and therefore that will mean that we have in Zimbabwe a judiciary which is not working in unison. And the results of such a judiciary is like what we are seeing currently in Kenya. One court makes this decision only to be contradicted by another bench of judges. So that is not what we need to have, because that will mean that we'll have so many cases, so many matters where the court should weigh its decisions on, which are actually contradicted, and that brings a state of the country to be not well governed. So to me, Miriam, I think they would have stuck to whatever mandate that they gave President Emerson Mnangagwa to actually select and appoint judges who are actually aligned to assisting him achieve his agenda. That is what we saw in Singapore, Miriam, where the Chief Justice was actually an appointee of the president. And when they come into office, this means that they will be working closely with the president to ensure that at the end of the day, the agenda of government is well catered for, and the judges which are brought to the bar are actually people who meet the threshold that has been put there in terms of integrity, and are people who are willing to work for the government and actually able to deliver some of the judicial rulings that will give a conducive environment for the government to thrive economically, politically, and socially. So if we have a situation like what you're having in Zimbabwe, I believe it's just taking the judiciary into the rock bottom, and this will have a very great implication to the government itself, because whatever happens in the judiciary, it will happen in the executive, and it will also affect whatever is happening in the other arm of the government, which is a legislator. I submit. Okay,
thank you so much. And I've been following this case here in Zimbabwe, and there are a section of especially the civil society there that are saying these new changes that Parliament passed would go and compromise the independence of the judiciary if President Mnangagwa has the power to hire and fire the judges there at Kevin Karanja. I don't know how you feel about that.
Miriam, my feeling is if the appointment will be based on meritocracy, based on merit, then I don't see any problem having president appointing the Chief Justice or the judges in that regard. because I understand even the cabinet secretaries, the ministers that we have, are appointed by president. And if they do their work well, then that shows that the president is in good and in sound mind to appoint lead judges who meet the constitutional threshold, who meet the academic qualification, and who have the merit and who have the character and the attributes to make or what makes attributes of what makes a judge a good judge. Therefore, to me, I don't see anything so big about that. But on the issue of the High Court trying to interfere with what the people of Zimbabwe gave a go-ahead on the referendum, that you can go as a Chief Justice beyond 70 years. I see them working in bad faith, because if the Constitution allows you to go beyond 70 years, and you are 70 years now.
The people of Zimbabwe in a referendum voted to cap the age at 70 years, but a parliament amended, because the Constitution allows Parliament to amend laws, so they amended and extended that 75 years. But the amendment was done after this judge had already attained 70 years, so they're saying he cannot enjoy this new law. That is what they were arguing.
Okay. Okay. Hello. The amendment was made. Okay. Sorry.
Oh, Saxon.
Can I come in?
Let Jalen finish, and then I'll come to you.
But I still see like if the people and I was meaning the parliament. Rather, if they capped, they extended the age limit to above 70 years, and the Chief Justice in question had attained the 70 years, then to me, I see logic that it is possible for him to continue working, whether he was 70 or he was 69 or 71, provided the age limit has been uplifted, then he can continue serving. To me, I think that should be the argument. Therefore, the High Court trying to intervene or to bring this kind of issue, it's the same thing. And I agree with Dr. Masanga. Some quarters are trying to interfere with our regimes using the judiciary, because it has come out clear that judiciary, they are the custodian of the Constitution. It is a very powerful arm of government, and if manipulated, Miriam, it can cause havoc, it can disrupt everything, because of the power they hold. They can do bad or they can do good. Therefore, it depends on who is controlling them.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, his term had ended before this ruling. Go ahead, Saxon.
Okay. The Justice Malaba turned 70 yesterday. By the time the amendment was passed, he was still 69. So saying he was 70, that's a lie. He turned 70 midnight on Friday midnight when they made the urgent application. Coming back to the ruling, this judge, there were three judges. The Judicial Services Commission, they had applied for their recusal. This constitutional amendment, the one that was contested, it bars all the other, meaning
very important point there that Saxon is making. Unfortunately, we're not able to hear what he's saying. He was really clarifying for us very important issues there in regards to the question that we're discussing. But unfortunately, we have a very bad, connection from his side. So maybe he will not continue with this conversation. Yes.
Miriam, if I may come in and say for the platform, what they should.
End of this.
Okay. Yes, I think we'll just excuse Saxon for today. We're not able to have a good communication. He'll join us next time with better connection there, so we apologize for that. Doctor, you can go ahead.
Look, once the amendment is passed, the law changes there and then. That is normal in constitutionalism. That's it. If the amendment is passed, signed by the president, it becomes law. So whoever, if, for example, if Kenyans vote that they want a BBI now, or in August, that BBI will be with effect from August. Therefore, whoever is in the office and is there, everything becomes new. Even if there was a motion, even the president can now say, I am also free to take another position I want, which is not the case with this BBI. In Zimbabwe, the amendment was made much earlier. The law was enacted. The president signed the law. And the president took his time now to appoint, because it's already a law. But someone, because of George Soros' money, who technically want to throw, they just get this, my people. They just want to overthrow the government of Mnangagwa through civil strife, through the judiciary. They have now failed to overthrow it through MDC. They now want to overthrow it through the courts. That's all. Thank you.
All right. I think we'll just end that matter there. I know Dr. Chesenya Chamba just rejoined.
Okay.
All right. Do you have something to add to that? Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Doc.
I think I wanted to say something. You know, for me, my issue is, even if the Chief Justice had reached 70 and amendment is done, even when he had just left, unless they had started a recruitment of a new Chief Justice, is when now they will say, oh, you left, you are 70, there is a window. You can now participate with the others. But here, they had not even started to recruit a new justice. What should happen is he needs to continue. You know, it's a simple matter. I don't know how people read laws. I'm not a lawyer, but you know, that is where we have allowed African countries to be taken over by lawyers to mislead citizens. You know, there's a difference between rule of law and the rule by law. People always focus rule of law. They never look at rule by law. If they follow the rule by law, the Chief Justice can continue with his work, because no replacement had already been done.
But according to the Zimbabwean constitution, if that law is passes, the incumbent cannot benefit from that law. The next person will, not the incumbent. So maybe that is where the court looked at.
No, you know what they changed was the age. Are you getting it?
They did not change the law. They changed the age.
Yes.
They changed the age.
Yes, not the law.
So what the constitution says in Zimbabwe, the amendment was passed in parliament, but now the person who at that time is in that seat cannot benefit from that immediately. Now the next person is the one who will benefit.
No.
Okay.
Let me look at this. Let me look at the constitution. We can proceed.
Yes.
Maybe unless we look at the constitution,
yes,
how it says, so that you defied Miriam, so that we also don't mislead the public from our opinions.
And also, Doc, I think very interesting to note there, Atendai Biti was the one who was representing this lawyer that had challenged this.
You see?
Who was representing?
Doctor understands the history. Atendai Biti.
You know, Miriam, what is happening? Even some of the judges, they never declare their interest. I had told you, the judgment made against the BBI, 2 of the judges are among the 41. There is an indirect interest. And that's why you saw they were pointing their guns on His Excellency the President. Anyway,
all right,
let's get the clarification later after having read the constitution of Zimbabwe. I think we'll be able to...
Look, a subsection of the article in the constitutionalism does not submerge the entire article. Yeah, a section, you are hearing us? A subsection. For example, Miriam, if we go to Article 257 and we want to amend that Parliament should, after the omnibus bill has come from MCS, Section 11 says Parliament of Kenya can discuss whether it fails or it doesn't, whether they like it or not. They are conveyor belt. Now, Miriam, we go for that section. And I am sure the MPs, when it comes back, they will go for that section to change. That when this thing reaches here, we must have a say. So, what happened, Miriam? They changed that section of law of age. But the appointment of this entire section to appoint a chief justice remains the powers of the president. And it is ingrained in the entire constitution.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that is how it is.
But the 2013 constitution forbids incumbents from benefiting from the changes to the charter. So maybe that's the loophole the judges used to deny.
Yes, if the incumbent.
Yes, cannot.
But this is not the incumbent.
He was the
It has
chief
not
justice.
changed the whole. Anyway, lawyers will agitate out.
Yes.
The incumbent medium has not the incumbent was appointed by the whole article.
All right.
So you cannot use one leg or one finger in the article and leave and cut it off.
Doctor.
No.
Mwilu used one leg. Where did the spoiled ballots go? It changed the whole thing.
Yeah. No.
Right.
Mwilu's statement was critical, was real.
Yes.
Because it was it was a flaw. The elections were flawed. Sorry, they were flawed.
All right.
You know, if you say where you haven't shown where the spoiled ballot papers are kept, then where are they?
Yeah.
She had a point there.
She did. She
Had a point. So I would never allow, if I were Kenyan, I would have just waited for Mr. Chebukati as he's getting out of the car, just lock the padlock on the office and not to come in.
That would be criminal.
No, it is civil. You all stand and chain yourselves on the door, like 200 of you on the door. Some of these people who steal your money, time has come for Kenyans to come like 400, go to his office and be there, tear gas, prepare yourself, be there until he goes away through the window.
All right.
Yeah.
Saxon is back, but Saxon, your connection is not very good. I don't know if so. Today we will not. I'll not engage you because it's not very good. Perhaps next time. So we'll just move on to the next subject for the interest of time. And Somalia has rejected the appointment of former Ghanaian President John Mahama as African Union's special envoy to help mediate its political impasse with Kenya. Mohamed Abdirazak, Somalia's Foreign and International Cooperation Minister, says the Ghanaian ex-leader is closely associated with the leadership in Kenya without specifying who in particular. Based on this alone, he says Mr. Mahama cannot be trusted to be impartial and deliver an acceptable solution.
It's back to war.
We're back to
rotten diplomacy. Again, my people in Kenya don't listen. Miriam, my people in Kenya don't listen. It is, you see, my people in Kenya, you don't listen. There's somebody in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs misleading the government, thinking you are dealing with right-minded people. Somali government is not a right-minded people government. It is a terrorist government headed by a terrorist, a supporter of terrorists, a father of all fathers of terrorists, who has advisors who were former Islamic courts, who are the owners of Al-Shabaab. I rest my case and I've gone to sleep.
Okay. Dr. Joseph Janchama, what's really happening? At the other time, you were really applauding the efforts of Qatar. Of course, myself, I was a bit hesitant, if you can remember, but you see now it didn't work out too well. What do you think happened, or what is really happening?
You see, for the case of Farmajo, we took his word. You see, it comes a time when men, when they say words, we trusted them. That's why we were not wrong by applauding their gesture. So if they are turning around again to start gimmicks and gymnastics of taking the government of Kenya around without even giving reasons, you know, rejection must be accompanied by a specific, provable reason that the person is going to be biased. It is on that basis that you can appeal the ground, state the case. I think it is afterthought that if the relation between Somalia and Kenya goes back, they are the behind the scenes profiteers who saw that they are no longer going to. I think they said, oh, how dare do you say that Kenya and Somalia has a good relationship? Well, how are we going to benefit? And now they have started the hand-to-hand, which is underpinned by fraudster, bordering kind of attitude. It is very unfortunate that this happens. For me, I can see the profiteers of illicit money and other things working behind the scenes to spoil the good relationship, to go back. You know, Miriam, corrupt people are very powerful, especially if they see a certain move which has been made. It's not going to benefit them. I think there was an afterthought, but with us, we applauded the president of Somalia in good faith as a punchline in Africa TV. But even now they have gone back. I think I have no words, but Kenyan still needs to take its strong stand, not to compromise on issues. If it is on the territory, if it is territory, they should not sit any ground. I submit, Miriam.
Okay, thank you so much. Daniel Esonga, I don't know if you had this conversation with you, but I remember it was during an Africa Showdown show. I was not quite enthusiastic with this mediation from Qatar, but I think it was a good thing and a good step that we thought Somalia had taken, or was, I don't know if they were forced to take, or they just, I don't know. What do you make of these new developments from the relationship of these two countries that we thought was an apartheid?
Yes, yes, thank you, Miriam. And of course, as Kenya, we applauded the effort made by the Qatar, and also you have to remember that it was not Kenya which severed the relations between the two countries, but it was Somalia. And Somalia has been actually provocating Kenya in many of its actions, even by closing, banning imports from Kenya, like Miraa, going ahead to annex and actually to auction the oil blocks in the Indian Ocean. But also, you have to understand, Miriam, that Qatar has been massively been mentioned as a financier of terrorism. And also, even within its neighbors in the Middle East, it has been branded as a state which has been interfering in Saudi Arabia and many Arab states. And therefore, it has been having a very volatile and hostile relations with its neighbors. I believe, in as much as we applauded it for the noble step in making sure that these long-lasting impasse between Kenya and Somalia is solved, but also it is not a state that can be actually be trusted. And in this essence, we are dealing with a banditry terrorist state, like Dr. Masanga has put it. We need to be very careful in that we do not get duped in this entire process. And that's why Dr. Masanga, when Dr. Masanga says that we have people in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs which are not advising the country quite well in this matter, I believe that is a very, very genuine concern. Because first of all, we are dealing with a country, Somalia, which do not have a goodwill and which cannot be trusted. Because in matters of fact, it has been established that Somalia has been having a very cordial working relationship with the terror group Al-Shabaab. And therefore, Miriam, I see we might have a problem in the coming days if the Kenyan Foreign Affairs Ministry does not actually follow this matter with the concern that it deserves. And of course, Dr. Masanga has already given them a red flag. It is upon the ministry now to follow up and ensure that, again, we do not get ourselves into another diplomatic quagmire. Miriam, I submit.
Thank you so much, Jeben Karanja. And also add to that, Kenya suspended flights to and from Somalia for 3 months. So that tells you things are not all right for whatever reason. But I think a lot of times what Kenyan government worries about is security, usually when it comes to what we've been seeing happening between Kenya and Somalia. So it didn't work out too well, the mediation by Qatar, after all.
Thank you very much, Miriam. And now I see why you had some reservations.
You remember?
When it comes to...
I was the only person here doubting if this will work.
Yeah, now I see that something is not rolling in the right direction. Because, this country, and I say this, unless Somalia is having the goodwill, they will not be pushed, they will not be forced by anybody to have a good diplomatic relationship with Kenya, because they have been accusing us for bad things that we have not committed. Therefore, unless they come out and they have the willingness to ensure that we stabilize everything and we clear the mess, Miriam, nothing will happen. Whether Qatar comes here 7 times or 10 times and the people in Somalia are not willing, it will be just a PR exercise that will not yield any fruits at the end of the day. Therefore, it is upon the government of Somalia, because we as a country, we have helped them quite a lot. And it's upon also to the government of Kenya to ensure that if there is any other mechanism that can be used to ensure that we strengthen the bonds, the relations, the diplomatic bonds between the two countries, so that we can continue thriving in terms of trade, in cooperation and so on, together as a region, then so be it. But for this extent, the Kenyan government should remain alert, should keep an eye on the events that are happening, so that they will not be caught off guard. Because we know very well, Qatar and Somalia, these are countries that they are very good friends, they interact, they do business, and to some extent in terms of oil and so on. Therefore, we might not, as a country, we need to be watchful, that is what I can say, so that we avoid being caught by surprise on the events that might happen in future. But it's upon the two countries, Somalia and Kenya, to strengthen their relationship, and Kenya to continue ensuring that if there's any channel that can be used, and the people of Somalia to have their willingness and to see the need of coexisting peacefully. We cannot be thinking of having Somalia as a member of the East African community when we, as the two countries, we are not even in good terms. We need to work on it, but more of a burden lies to the people of Somalia, because we know that we have the process of closure of the Dadaab and Kakuma refugee camps and so on. Therefore, they need to do something to ensure that things are rolling on the right direction. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much. And of course, the lead mediator from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Qatar, if I remember very well, he's the same person who was mediating. And I think I pointed this out the last time we were having this conversation. He's been mediating between Afghanistan, Taliban and the US, and we all know how those mediation have gone. They've not borne any fruits, but also I think it's a good thing if Kenya and Somalia, if we can repair whatever it is that is going on, and Somalia is the one who stopped having these diplomatic ties with us. So if that can be mended, I think it would be good for the both countries. So I'm having confidence that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the government of Kenya is doing something towards that direction. I'm sure the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is working on something right now. All right, so let's just wait and see how that will work out. And we go to Ethiopia. I don't know if you're all aware what has been happening. Yes.
Miriam, before you leave,
yes,
there's a point I was thinking of when I put my head back.
Okay.
Before you leave Somalia, let's be very honest. The ruling of the ICJ case is in September. Somalia, Dr. Najama, Javan, and Sean, Miriam, These guys have caught us with our pants in the knees. Catch 22. They know very well they can, that ruling could go in their favor. Because Kenya definitely pulled out. So what they know, east or west, whatever you want to do, you can do it. Let's not be shy in saying and giving genuine advice that there is a very big hole in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs as far as conducting issues of diplomacy with Somalia. It has fallen, it has collapsed. Somebody needs to re-engineer that fire in that ministry. I'm not condemning anybody, but you can see with the type of diplomacy. There is now the issue of Israel and Hamas. You can see the way Kenya used to be a non-aligned state, a member of the non-aligned state. So nobody has come up clearly to spell for us which direction Africa is going. Many countries in Africa are taking their stand. So there's something that should be done. How soon, we don't know. But on this one, the Somalis are always, they have a very bad president. He will never be with us, even if we swing and go and talk to Angel Gabriel, who is nearest on earth than the others. I think Miriam, we are wasting time. Okay. That's all I can say.
Yes, let's leave that alone and see how that will play out. We conclude with Ethiopia for the interest of time, and the massacre that has been going on there in Ethiopia, and the US has condemned Eritrea and Ethiopia for coordinating their troops to close off a key aid route to Ethiopia's war-torn Tigray region. In a statement on Saturday, US Secretary of State Anthony Blinken demanded Eritrea and Ethiopia take all necessary steps to ensure that their forces in Tigray cease and desist this reprehensible conduct. Blinken's statement comes after the top Republican of the House Foreign Affairs Committee this last week called on the Biden administration to enact sanctions in response to the ongoing human rights abuses in the region. Doctor, why do you think they've been massaging Abiy Ahmed so much? And if this was happening in another place, even just around Africa, already they would have had a lot of sanctions. Why are they massaging Ahmed so much? Why are they too lenient even?
You know what? Because he got a Nobel Prize.
They should take that back.
No, not only even taking it back. He's part of the agents of CIA. That's why Miriam, ma'am, you are reading international relations. Watch the space here. For you to get that Nobel Prize, you must be working for either one of the agencies in Europe or part of the CIA. Nobody clears you. You see, a Nobel Prize laureate cannot pay for a plane flight. It means you are holy. It's like going to Pope, being near Vatican. If you eat food near Vatican, even when you drink outside the Holy Basilica, just water from outside, you become part and parcel of the Holy See. So Dr. Abe became part and the parcel when he came to pressurize the former prime minister to step down and got the leadership. You remember, Americans put a lot of pressure on that prime minister. And him said, man, I don't have much energy to fight people. I'm going to step down. Now, they have been dragging their feet because they don't know how to handle one of their own. They dragged the feet on Savimbi, you remember? They sponsored Savimbi, gave Savimbi money, arms, but they could not do anything about Savimbi. Despite the fact that Savimbi had a lot of human rights abuses, killed a lot of people in Huambo. Nobody condemned Savimbi. So, I told you here about 4 weeks ago that I will bring Farimajo, Ifaka Isaias, and whoever killed Tigray to the UN. Isn't it happening now? Isn't it happening? Farimajo contributed. The troops that went to Tigray to kill were Somalis. Are not Somalis who are in Ethiopia, but Somalis from Mogadishu, who have been captured in Tigray as prisoners. 300 dead bodies are still in the mortuary. Where UN has taken that evidence, they are coming down to sort this mess once for all. People will get human rights, who abuse human rights will go. That's the best I'm telling you. Why they are handling Abe, I have now told you. Abe was NGO man. Where has he worked? Show me one office he worked, apart from an NGO. No, just check his history. From the scholarship. Abe is like a Dr. D. From the scholarship. I hate to be sponsored a scholarship from a Mzungu. I like the payments that is a public policy. Meskia, which paid for me, public policy of a country where you have settled, said go to school. The universities open Matanga, go. But not to be given a scholarship from Africa here with that big head of David Indi, like this, like an egg. What is this? That one, that he was also in London, you know? And then that's a scholarship sponsored. Medium, such individuals who have been given those type of scholarships. And I never accept my daughter, never accept a scholarship of that nature. Because now you work like a slave. You cannot criticize America. You cannot criticize George Soros. But me who was read on public money, there is a public grant. There is a public policy. Ministry of Education in Britain has said, go to school. Go and get your tools of analysis. Go for an interview. If you qualify and show your papers, the university will take you. And study on the scheme, not scholarship. So Dr. Abe is a scholarship. Those among the scholarship men pinpointed out, airlifted, and taken for training. How to come and spy on other Africans. So that type of life, you cannot be yourself, Miriam. You're asking why they are dilly-dally. They cannot kill one of their own. They are embarrassed. Nyachama, they are embarrassed. Dr. Nyachama never got a scholarship from, I don't know whether you also got a scholarship, which I don't want, I don't want you to disclose, but if you got a scholarship and airlifted,
I told you, Daktari, that my mother told me you cannot drift to the top of the hill. So I used the toil of my mother to go to school.
Yes.
So yeah.
That's why you are able to speak your mind out.
Yes.
But Dr. Abe of Ethiopia cannot speak. In fact, I told you, the biggest mistake, Miriam, that Dr. Abe made was to shake hands of Ifeki Isaias. Didn't I tell you about 7 months ago?
Of Eritrea, and now they have a very unholy alliance there.
Yes. Soon they will fight.
After they are done with Tigray. Because
Yes,
majority of the soldiers there.
You know, over that border dispute, they will fight. And they will need the Tigray soldiers. This guy, Oromo, they don't have the soldiers. This is Dr. Abe. The Tigrayans are real fighters. I'm telling you. I've grown up with them. I love them. I like them. The only one I don't like is the fifth in World Health Organization, who caused me very dangerous. I was going to go to prison in Britain because of him. Feeling wrong forms of refugee relief money. I told you the story. Then the Auditor General of Britain checking our form, they were going to grant us 250,000 pounds of 1989 million. It's huge money. It can build a Mororo Dam and a Roro Dam. When they found the two accounts, the man had written his own personal account. Scotland police, Metropolitan Police summoned us. We said we don't know, but we gave one younger man who was studying medicine in Nottingham University to do this filling of these papers. Maybe it is him. Then it's now discovered it was him. So I was aware. He's aware. I was aware. I was aware of that something is. Tigrayans are the fighters. And at this time, when Eritrea starts to fight Ethiopia, there is also an element of religion that has come in. Miriam, the religious element, which we can't discuss here openly, but there is that link between Farimajo, Efeka Esaias, and Dr. Abe. Yeah, so they have brought that, thinking that is a unity. No, so they are killing Tigrayans. I submit.
All right, thank you so much. Dr. Joseph Nyanchama, there's another news item I was watching on CNN maybe 2 days ago, an investigative piece that the CNN crew were able to sneak into Tigray and report on this. And what was apparent is the soldiers from Eritrea were blocking even food assistance to reach the people of Tigray who need it, and they refused for people to farm. That means that hunger is looming in that region, and of course the rape cases and what is happening there. Basically, a genocide is taking place in Tigray region. And what is really appalling for me as an African is our African Union is right there in Ethiopia, and the silence that our leaders in this continent have adopted in this matter really is worrying.
Miriam, it is very worrying. You know, do you know that it is against a fundamental right of a human being to deny him food, whether you are a criminal, by the way? There is no criminal offense equivalent to denying people food. And in this case, you know, it is food being given to innocent people. And AU, in fact, I don't know, maybe Masanga needs to tell us, do they live with this mandate really, which I don't think so. If they cannot intervene when conflict is there in Africa to protect the future generation, I think their roles now become redundant absolutely, because the welfare of the people is always the supreme law. And coming even to the leader you talked about, Dr. Abe, given a Nobel Prize. How do you get a Nobel Prize from an noble people? Dr. Masanga, I have always been thinking, why is it that all this nobility has to come from West? Where are the Nobel Prizes from Africa? Can you start thinking a model of African themselves? They know which people to reward, those who have stood by the African values.
You know how much money they pay? It's $2 million. $5 million.
$5 million.
Do you have it in Africa to pay? Do you have it in Africa? Which African government can be paying $5 million? That Nobel Prize does not just come like that. If you have shared it The other one take $2.5 million on your account. So
No.
which African country has got that money?
Dr. Masanga, any prize, when I give you a gift or a prize, I recognize you as a top Pan-Africanist. Not necessarily that tangible money has to flow. That recognition of your legacy, that recognition, meaning that I'm engraving you into the hearts of the African people plus the generation.
Correct.
I think we need to delink. If we have to start a noble price, we must delink it from the actual money. Maybe actual money is just a small amount of money.
Maybe you are right there, boss. You delink it from actual money.
Yes.
But when now you want to fly to go and meet people in Morocco, you will need money.
But what I'm saying, I don't absolutely mean that you give it without any money at all.
It should not be the main thing.
You can give what is affordable, what the continent can afford.
The value should not be tied on the money. The value of that price should not be tied on the money, the monetary value it has.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
All right. And I need us to move forward because our time is up. Dr. Nyachama, I don't know if you're done, but I get your point, Dr. Harry. I absolutely agree with you on that regard. Why do we always have to gauge our value by what others have created out there? I think that is what is worrying you. That was the question.
Yes. Yes.
All right. Thank you so much.
But in Nyachama, you teach so many people. And when I speak my Ugandan English, some people tell me that English is not English. So have you seen that?
Let me tell you, Masanga.
Let's understand that medium. When I speak English, they say that is not English. Yet I just went to learn English. I am not an Englishman, but I have communicated. But you find an African laughing at you. That is not English. You see, we had David Ocheng writing English. Philip Ocheng. We have another guy in Kisumu. Or every Friday. You know? He tells you what are you speaking about. That's not English. So
all right.
Boss, those are some of the things that make me wonder what Africa can do.
Yes. You know, Dr.
Our Nobel Prize.
Dr. Masanga, I tell young people that don't wait until you master English before you serve your gift to the world. You are not the promoter of English. I mean, you don't need to speak good English to serve your gift or give your ideas to the world. Yes, I'm not a promoter of English. That's not my business.
I agree.
Yes. And Dr. Nyachama, we have people like the Meru governor, Kiraitu Murungi, who went to Harvard for 15 years. But when you listen to his English, you'll maybe confuse him with someone who has been in Meru for his entire life.
Daniel.
So I don't see the first, yes.
Tuachane na maneno ya language. I want us to conclude on the Tigray issue. Alafu, I need to go home now.
For me, my contribution is over, Miriam.
Yes. I need to hear from Daniel and Javen. So, Daniel, please, go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Miriam. And I think Dr. Matsanga and Professor Dr. Nyachama have actually summarized everything. But maybe my small contribution is that, like Dr. Matsanga said, a war is looming in Tigray region, especially between Eritrea and Ethiopia because of the overstayed military presence from the Eritrean side. So soon enough, Miriam, we might see a war again between Eritrea and Ethiopia. And this is not something new. It has been there since Eritrea got its independence. And it's more likely to happen. They might be together right now because they are fighting a common enemy. But soon enough, again, interests might change and they might turn the barrels of the gun against one another. I submit.
Okay, thank you. Javen Karanja.
Thank you very much, Miriam. And, Dr. Masanga and Dr. Nyachama and Wesonga have already exhausted everything. but I would like to say that something need to be done, and anybody who is culpable for humanitarian crimes that have claimed lives of the people in the region should be taken somewhere to suffer the consequences, so that it acts as a deterrent measure, so that others in future want to engage on such a primitive acts should be dealt with accordingly. But to Abiy Ahmed, as a peace and Nobel winner, he needs now, this is a time to portray to the world that he is really a champion of peace, as he used to do. And when they shook the hand with the Eritrea president and so on. Now this time he needs also to walk the talk and portray himself and to unhook himself from all this kind of madness that is happening. That is my contribution for today. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Ejevan Karanja, Daniel Wasonga, Dr. Joseph Nanchama, and Dr. David Matsanga. This has been Africa Showdown. My name is Miriam Mugutu. I'll be back with you here tomorrow, 9 a.m. and the panelists, of course, for more news from Kenya and indeed across the continent of Africa. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye for now.